panel. But before we do that, what I want to give is each person a chance to talk about an aspect that they've been talking about already in many cases. And I thought we would start with Dina Hestad from Norway, because Dina, you are from the country, and Leon mentioned it, and a couple of people mentioned it, you know, and Mary Robinson really talked about it, from the country of Norway, where we know this summer there was a horrendous event directed, as so often happens, against children, against young people, against, you know, so much of the slaughter that goes on seems intentionally pushed towards young people. Would you tell us about Norway, the reaction to it?
Yes, I can. And thank you for asking me that question and giving me an opportunity to speak about it. So, I am 22 years old, and I'm an engaged Norwegian citizen. And the reason I mention that is because on the 22nd of July this year, a fundamentalist, anti-Islam nationalist made my fellow young engaged Norwegian citizens victims of hatred and fear of diversity and interdependence. For 9 years, he planned how he would destroy the political elite and the coming political leaders. He bombed Oslo, the center of our government, and then went on to Utoya, the small idyllic island where the young labor camp had their international summer retreat. In a police uniform, he shot down and killed 69 children and young people. The youngest was only 13 years old. 77 people were killed in total. This hatred shook our little country at the core. And the reason I'm talking about this is the reaction that Norway took, and indeed the people from all throughout the world, the reaction they made to this. Yesterday it was mentioned how 9/11, and also how Mary Robinson mentioned, that 9/11 was a missed opportunity for the US in terms of change. I want to reflect a little bit on what that opportunity and what this opportunity is for us, and how that hatred in some way results in something good, and how we have grabbed it so far, and what we can learn from it, especially young people. I'm not attempting to compare it to 9/11 in any way. That's not possible. But I can tell you the story of how I found this and how the Norwegian people reacted. Jens Stoltenberg, our prime minister, said on TV the same night that it happened, before we knew that it was an ethnic Norwegian that did it, that we will respond to this with more democracy, more openness, and with love. 250,000 people, half the size of our nation's capital, came out to our streets with roses and absolutely covered the city with love and roses and companionship. Today, it's our election day in Norway. Local elections, by far. And it is expected to be the biggest turnout of votes in decades, especially with young voters. I haven't had the chance to check how it goes yet because I'm not online. I don't know. The caring, attention, and empathy our little country got from the international world was huge. Oslo was the most popular hashtag on Twitter for days, except for in the US. I don't want to think about why that is. I don't want to speculate in that. I live in Australia now, and that's where I was when this happened. And every person I met came up to me who knew that I was Norwegian and offered their condolences and told me how terrible it was and how we have responded. The youth that were on Utoya was from all over the world, especially from the Middle East and of Islam descent, and were Muslims. And that was partly the reason why the terrorist, I won't mention his name, I won't justify him and give him the publicity of that, or more publicity anyways. And that's why he chose the Labour Party, because of its diversity. This foul act of terror united our country. Every Norwegian, there were ceremonies in mosques, in churches, in temples everywhere, radiating the statement of more democracy, more openness, and more love. The phrase, if one man can show so much hatred, imagine all the love we can show together, was radiated all over the place. And that was a young girl who was at Utoya who said that. I had many friends on that island and in Oslo, and the Youth Labour Party are hell-bent on going back there. They're going to take it back. He's not going to let us fear. And their campaign prior to this election has been just vote. Instead of vote for our party, vote for me. This was an attack on youth. It was an attack on diversity, democracy, and interdependence. And the lesson I, and indeed many other citizens, have learned is that we're not going to be afraid. We have to continue working. We have to broaden our horizons, engage with everyone. Not isolate the extreme views, but engage and have the tough debates. Be inclusive and open, and try to prevent this with love, however cliche that might sound. We cannot passively sit on the sidelines of the big issues affecting our planet today, whether it be climate change, poverty, extreme nationalism, or religious fundamentalism. I hope 10 years from now I can look back and see, and I hope this will lead to the Norwegians being less complacent about exactly that. Be engaged, and that hopefully that we grab this opportunity and continue what has been started. And not forget, and maybe other people or countries can follow. And I hope that we will be more international and more open and more engaged.